So I asked the question in the last two videos, is this ORMEs, or orbitally rearranged monoatomic elements, the manna of the Bible? But more importantly, is it the tree of life or is it the tree of knowledge? And I've been kind of pondering this since yesterday when I put those videos up. And you know, the tree of life was something that could be consumed, and it actually, there's a river as well that there's a reference to, and which is ironic because the story in the Sumerian clay tablets was that the Anunnaki were trying to mine this gold originally in the water because it was a better source of it. But of course, you know, David Hudson, he got his from the clay, of course, which is ironic because man was made from clay. But getting back on track, I really think the more I think about it, it is the tree of life. And the Garden of Eden was probably just the richest, lushest garden ever known. And, you know, just like volcanic ash, when it spreads across something, which is a good source of this ORMEs, everything grows back incredibly lush, which is why Hawaii is a really good place to get these things. So then what is the tree of knowledge is what kept going to my head. Like, if ORMEs is the tree of life, then what is the tree of knowledge? But then it went back. I thought about, like, my initial thought on this ORME stuff is not to buy it from someone on the internet, not to start some chemistry in my house or hoard a bunch of gold so that I can make unlimited amounts of it, but to get it naturally from food. And maybe the tree of knowledge is something to do with that, you know, greed, or it could, of course, potentially have to do with breeding with these Nephilim, okay, like some people believe that Eve actually had sex with Lucifer, and that Cain, I don't know if you've heard this theory, was a descendant of Lucifer, and then Abel was a descendant of Adam, which is why Cain, you know, killed Abel. Also, perhaps why Yahweh didn't like his offering as much as Abel's. You know, all these vegetarians are like, oh, we're supposed to eat vegetables, but, you know, Cain offered vegetables that he had grown in the garden, and Abel offered meat, and Yahweh liked the meat. So anyway, the point is, though, that, so what if he was just an offspring of these Nephilim? And that's actually mentioned in the book that I keep talking about, The Message of the Kingdom. He really goes through the Bible, looks at it scientifically. He throws away all common preperceptions that may have been had. He really calls Paul out as a liar, and you can watch my video, Nailed to the Cross, So Says the Liar, which half of you, you know, probably thumbs down, but, I mean, you just can't ignore the... Paul has just caused so much controversy. But anyway, and who visited him? You know what I mean? So what is the tree of knowledge of good and evil? Let's just say hypothetically that this, and I'm mixing up the Enki and the Enlil, but whichever one was the one that was the liberator, the Lucifer analog, let's just say that he kept breeding with the daughters of men over and over again and created this bloodline that everybody loves talking about, you know, like, don't front, everybody loves talking about it, and it's like, reptoids, and Elijah Paul brought this up decades ago. He drafted that book, Message of the Kingdom, in 1989, before, now Eric von Daniken was around, but he wasn't popular yet. Ancient Aliens was not anywhere to be found. David Icke was unheard of to me at that point. I got introduced to all of this through Message of the Kingdom, not through these other guys, and he approaches it through a Messianic Judaism kind of way. And but anyway, he actually brings this up in that book. So it's really interesting. If you're not an atheist, but you're still interested in this stuff, and you don't think that the presence of the possibility of extraterrestrials, you know, certainly rules out the possibility of a creator, then you may really want to read that book. But but anyway, let's just say that this Lucifer Enlil, I think it's Enlil, kept coming down, or his minions anyway, breeding with these daughters of men, creating this bloodline that perhaps has more of this Anunnaki DNA. So what is the search for the tree, what is the search of knowledge, that gnosis, okay, or eating of the tree of knowledge? Is it breeding with this type? Is it activating that DNA? Because that DNA, let's just say you can call it the DNA of the gods, could be used for good or evil, like my son, he really is not only an expert on Old Testament genealogy, I don't know how he does it, he's 7.5, but an expert on Greek mythology as well. And, these gods and goddesses, they use their powers for good and evil. So the question, going back to this manna, I personally would love to increase my tuition and extend my life and get rid of all disease and reset my DNA. And I can't imagine that would be considered eating of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. But if I start buying gold and hoarding it, so that no one else on earth can have it, so that I can make more of this stuff to live forever, that's pretty insane. And if I try to chemically create it synthetically in a lab, like a pharmaceutical company, in my house, instead of, I will just till the soil and eat from the garden, then perhaps that's eating the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So I'm a believer in epi-genetics, that our choices dictate the expression of our DNA. And so you could think that I'm a really cruel person in some ways, because I believe that, the diseases that certain people have are effects, from the choices that they've made, or from their parents, or up to 7 generations back. I do believe that the Old Testament says that, not to punish us, but because the Torah has this information in it that these intelligent, entities, I call him Yahweh, okay, and his Elohim, his emissaries, his messengers, whatever. They know how the universe works. They know the rules. They know how things are going to play out, and they're just telling us. It's not like a punishment. He's saying, this is the way it is. If you do this, it's going to affect your child in the womb. If you drink plastic from a plastic bottle that's been sitting in the car, your son is not going to have as much testosterone, and that's going to affect this, however many generations. If you consume DDT, or if you touch DDT in Vietnam like my biological father, your child will be born with 2 dislocated hips, and her femur will start rotting at the age of 5, which is what happened to me. It's just a fact. It's not like me trying to be cruel or whatever, because it's not necessarily a person's fault, because it could have to do with their parents. It could also have to do with the elite forcing poisons and chemicals upon them. So of course we're all looking for that tree of life, that manna. And I just have concluded, I don't think there's anything wrong with, certainly, with consuming it naturally in foods, or trying to enrich your soil, or even, having some gold around, but not because I'm trying to keep it from other people. So as far as my other crazy thought of interbreeding with Anunnaki, I don't think it really is that far. I think what it is, are you triggering that DNA? And so let's just say that Anunnaki is one race, and there's another race, or not even another race, but these different mothers, okay? Let's just say, like, Enki's mother was more peaceful than Enlil's mother. Maybe Enlil's mother was a wicked, evil, vindictive, blank. And your choices are going to activate certain DNA in your body. So the more evil you do, the more your mind gets seared, and the more evil you can do and possibly become capable of doing. Much like a psychopath, their frontal lobe has been damaged. A lot of kids that bang their head on the wall as children end up being sociopaths, or even worse, psychopaths. It's a brain damage thing. So anyway, because I believe in epigenetics, because I believe in the Bible, because I believe in the correlations between the Bible and the Sumerian clay tablets, I believe our choices dictate our genes. Okay, which is why I'm not really into the whole, like, let's just forcibly inject this gene, or let's synthetically create this chemical. I think that is the tree of knowledge. Let me get that straight right now. Not, having sex with aliens or whatever. I think they're long gone, but that's my personal opinion. I think we're all descendants of our space brothers. They're long gone. Maybe they'll come back one day. I don't know. I'm not going to be like a Heaven's Gate person and try to kill myself to jump on Haley Bop. I think that guy was crazy, but I'm sure you think I'm insane at this point. But the beauty of, what I believe is that when it comes down to it, I follow the Bible and the Ten Commandments. So I would never kill myself or ask anyone else to kill themselves or hurt another person. So technically you can't have me committed. Ha ha. But tree of life versus tree of knowledge and manna. I say go for the organic foods. Surprise, avoid the GMOs, because the GMOs are an example of people, these descendants of these space brothers that are, we're all descendants, but that are trying to become gods. And I think when it comes down to Enki and Enlil, and Enki saying, no, you're not ready, it's not that he didn't want us to have the manna. It's not he didn't want us to have the tree of life. He didn't want us to play genetic engineer. He was the genetic engineer. He knew what he was doing. He knew that if we started doing that, things would get messed up. And so when Eve decided to go and betray him with Enlil, women giants were made, supposedly. Giants, either men of renown, like Elijah Paul believes. He doesn't believe in the actual giants, or actual giants, if you believe those pictures on the internet. Whatever it is, these Nephilim, these were created, and so I think that's what he was trying to protect us from. So I don't think he is an oppressor, like the Gnostics believe, and that Enlil or Lucifer is this liberator, okay? I follow the just ill, who believes that if someone does something wrong, they're going to get punished. And I personally take comfort in the fact that I don't have to ever take revenge on anyone, because I believe in a judgment day where everyone will be judged by their works. And that's where the Christians get messed up, because they believe the Gnostics' convoluted, paganized version of Christianity, where they use Paul as their prophet of lies, that tells them that we can be, saved by faith alone. And Yeshua says he doesn't like that many, many times in Revelations, that we will be judged by our works. So, whether you believe in the Sumerian clay tablets or Paul or whatever, just think about this: the tree of life, the tree of knowledge. It's never going to hurt you to eat organic foods. I mean, you can eat too much of one food, I'm sure, but that's another thing when it comes to these ORMEs. There are 8 of them, and so you don't want to just ingest sovereign silver all the time, which is one of them actually, which is cool. I have that on my Amazon store, and I take that. But you want to get all these elements, so you want to eat a wide variety of these foods to get these elements to protect your DNA. And everybody knows that. Everybody knows that if you eat, organic fruit, it's going to be good for you. So of course it has these ORMEs in them. But you don't have to hoard it from everybody else and justify your end with your, justify your means with an end. And that's it. I rambled again. But I think I figured it out, and I'm going to eat all the organic food I want. I'm not going to start practicing alchemy in my house. I'm not going to buy some wacky ORMEs from somebody, because I don't necessarily trust that it's not going to kill me. Because maybe we humans can't understand how to make that, because we are not these highly evolved supreme beings. We're not highly evolved, so we can't make that. And if we try to make it, we're just going to destroy ourselves. So perhaps this oppressor that the Gnostics hate so much was just trying to keep us from destroying the earth, which is what the elite are doing. They're destroying the earth with genetically modified foods. They're destroying the earth with chemtrails because they think that it's going to protect our atmosphere. Well, the word on the street of the Anunnaki is, yeah, they were looking for gold and they wanted to put it in their atmosphere. It wasn't aluminum, it was gold. So when the gold fell down and they inhaled it, guess what? It extended their life. These guys, spraying the aluminum, it's coming down, and is that extending our life? No, it's making us have mental problems. So keep that in mind. And fluoride, I believe, accumulates more aluminum. So really fluoride might be the true connection with Alzheimer's, and they're seeing the aluminum because the fluoride is making the aluminum stay, just so you know. So avoid the fluoride too. Okay, love you all. This is me looking out for you. Don't have me committed because I am not harm to anyone or myself. So ha ha ha.